football to talk about, but let's go some early outlooks. Your NFC North winner, if you had to pick it today, Mike Tannenbaum.
Detroit Lions, Peter. Let's not overcomplicate it. Look, there's going to be some issues about continuity, losing Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn. But on offense, they still have Dan Campbell, an offensive-minded head coach, Mark Brunell, the quarterback coach, and they still have tons of weapons. They lost Frank Ragnow, Kevin Zeitler. Tate Ratledge is going to be a second-round pick. I think he'll be a plug-and-play player. So despite losing some players, they are the best team, and they have the best coach.
Cross?
Yeah, I go with the Lions as well. It is a great division. I think Green Bay, Minnesota, you can make a strong case for either. But the Lions have established something here. They came up short of their goal last year. I think they're hungry. I think Dan Campbell will use last year's early round playoff loss as motivation, and I think the Lions are still a cut above, especially with Aiden Hutchinson back.
Clean sweep, Woody, or what?
Can I offer you the Minnesota Vikings?
Let's go!
I'm going out there with the Minnesota Vikings, and I know everyone's going to talk about J.J. McCarthy hasn't played a snap. Well, guess what? Kevin O'Connell let Sam Darnold walk out the door because that's how confident he is in J.J. McCarthy. There's not, in my opinion, a team with better infrastructure than maybe the Minnesota Vikings. They've improved along the offensive line. They've improved along the defense line. We don't even need to talk about the weapons that they have, and they have an elite play caller as their head coach. I'm going out, and I'm saying the Minnesota Vikings.
Peter, to Damien's point, Greeny's great line of sneaky big news. They go out and they sign Will Freeze, Ryan Smith.
Yep.
And then
Ryan
Kelly. And they draft Donovan Jackson from Ohio State. What a great way to help a young quarterback to keep that pocket firm. So I agree. I think Kevin O'Connell will do a great job. They're just going to come up a little bit short.
All right, I see J.J. McCarthy, and I think of him meditating on the goalpost with the long hair and the aloe clothes and the whole thing. We haven't seen him play football.
Correct.
Yet at college, he was so efficient, and Harbaugh spoke the world of him. What are you hearing on J.J. McCarthy in Minnesota?
That everything is positive. First of all, health-wise, which was the key. He's coming off a significant injury. The progress he's made as a thrower this offseason, they've been happy with in terms of sort of modulating his throws, not throwing everything at full speed. That in the locker room, his presence is a welcomed one, and people enjoy being around him. So I think it's full steam ahead with J.J. McCarthy. The concern level of they let Sam Darnold walk and they're going to J.J. McCarthy. It's Sam Darnold. It's not they didn't let Josh Allen walk, right? They won 14 games last year with Sam Darnold, and we were sitting here this time last year saying, well, if Sam Darnold plays every game for the Vikings this year, how many games are they going to win? I don't think anybody would have said 14.
I mean, think about this. The division wasn't even decided until week 18
100%.
Between the Lions and the Vikings. So,
and by the way, the Packers had the youngest roster in the league last year and made the playoffs with it. So, yeah.
One thing about J.J. McCarthy, though, he's battle-tested. I've been to a lot of their practices over the last couple of years. Look, he led them to a national championship. So, again, it's all on a whole nother level. But if anybody could be ready to go, it's a Jim Harbaugh coach, Michigan national champion quarterback, and that's what they have in J.J. McCarthy.
It's interesting. We're talking about these three teams. You mentioned the Packers, youngest team in football, who went to the playoffs and did so. And if they had beaten the Eagles, who knows what would have happened after that wild card round. We haven't mentioned the Bears. Yeah. The Bears have the first overall pick. They totally revamped the coaching staff. They brought in all these different skill position players.
Jungle last season, landing on top of the toughest division in the NFL. They won the North with a 15-2 record, just one game better than the Vikings, and it looks like they'll be in another dogfight this year if they want to repeat as division champs. Let's take a look, though, at the odds to win the NFC North. Courtesy of ESPN Bet Sportsbook, this is the tightest division based on the odds, as Detroit are favored to three-peat at plus 135, followed by the Packers at plus 260, and the Vikings at plus 360, and Bears at plus 450. Sam, we're going to come to you. Remote, we don't want you to be left out of this conversation. Will the NFC North be the most competitive division again this season?
Oh, absolutely. And the reason why is a fewfold. Number one, you look at the Detroit Lions. They were the best team in the division last year. Well, they lost some talent, if you will. They lost their head coach. Well, their head coach, who was arguably the most sought-after coach in all of football, is now of the worst team. Their offensive coordinator is now the head coach of the worst team in that division. And so now Ben Johnson, who's calling all these plays, drawing up plays for one of the best offenses, is now helping one of the worst teams in the division. The team you see on your screen, right? You're seeing the Detroit Lions. You're also seeing teams like the Minnesota Vikings, 14-team win season. I understand they have a new quarterback, But I think that Detroit's going to be dominant again. But Detroit, Minnesota, Chicago's getting better, right? First round pick. The defense is better. The interior, the offensive line has improved. And oh, by the way, the Green Bay Packers drafted a wide receiver in the first round, and they got another one in the third. And so I think it's the most deep division in all of the NFL. And even though Detroit lost some talent when it came to their offensive and defensive coordinators, I think that Ben Johnson's going to help improve the Chicago Bears.
So I would say this, when you do look at the NFC North, there are two things that stand out to me, and it's the question marks, right? When it comes to these teams, it's the Minnesota Vikings, and can J.J. McCarthy get it done? Now, some people may say yes, some people still have a question mark beside it. It's also Caleb Williams. Can Caleb Williams be better than he was in 2024? So those are the two question marks. The best division in football that I believe is the AFC West, because there's no question about the quarterbacking in that division. When you look at Geno Smith for the Raiders, and you look at Patrick Mahomes, who's the standard in the National Football League, Bo Nix being able to grasp a Sean Payton's offense in his rookie season and lead them to the playoffs. You look at Justin Herbert from an individual standpoint, he's been phenomenal. Just has to be better in the postseason when it comes to the playoffs. But then I also look at the AFC West and I say to myself, my gosh, you have 3 Super Bowl winning head coaches, and then the other one in Jim Harbaugh, who won a national championship at the University of Michigan and has been to a Super Bowl as the head coach of the San Francisco 49ers. I believe every team in that division has gotten better, from the Denver Broncos to the Los Angeles Chargers, and the Raiders are going to be the worst team in that division, but the Raiders now have a quarterback. The Raiders now have a running back. They was last in rushing last season, and the culture, because Pete Carroll and what he has been able to do his entire career coaching, he is a culture changer. So that's why I'm going with the AFC West.
I'm going to go with the NFC North, and there's a very specific reason for it. I think that unlike the AFC West, anybody in the NFC North can win the division, which I don't think is true of the Raiders in the AFC West, for instance. I think it's probably this year a 2-horse race in the AFC West between the Chiefs, obviously, who should be the favorites, and then the Denver Broncos. With the NFC North, I'm seeing credibility everywhere. I'm seeing, I don't want to overstate this, but it looks like the Bears may have solved a problem for the first time in, 40 years? When you talk about the fact they professionalize their offensive line, they get Drew Dahlman, they get Joe Tooney, they get the best head coaching candidate on the market in Ben Johnson. This looks to be the makings of a 9-win, 10-win team at least. And then going forward, if Caleb Williams is actually solved as a quarterback prospect, that could be even more special going forward. I'm picking the Packers to win this division. Again, professionalizing. I was looking at some of the stats yesterday, and I could not believe how many mistakes they made last year in Green Bay. Jordan Love, I feel, was hurt last year for most of the time, but they had 3 receivers, who were in the top 5 in the league in drop percentage. That's unbelievable. They will get better with Matthew Golden here. It's going to be an awesome division. Packers win it.
All right, Sam.
And to your point with the Green Bay, to the Green Bay Packers, they were the 3rd best team in the division last year. And the Green Bay is going to win a minimum 10 games. Like, that's a guarantee, pretty much, especially Jordan Love being healthy with the receivers that they drafted. So the 3rd best team in your division last year is going to improve. We talked about Minnesota potentially regressing because we don't know what's going to be a quarterback. But we also have the Minnesota Vikings. They may not know a quarterback, but they know who they have at head coach, Kevin O'Connell, who was the AP Coach of the Year. And so you have a Coach of the Year, a.k.a. quarterback whisperer, who's probably going to whisper into his quarterbacks here, J.J. McCarthy, to help the Minnesota Vikings stay above the waters. And then lastly, we talked about the Chicago Bears. I understand that there are question marks at quarterback, but defensively they've improved. The offensive line has improved. And so for me, I think that when it comes to competitiveness, like which division is most competitive, I think it's got to be the NFC North.
So I would say this also, when you look at the Los Angeles Chargers, there weren't a lot of people that thought they were going to make the playoffs last year.
Nope.
There weren't a lot of people that thought the Denver Broncos was going to make it. The Chargers made the playoffs with Ladd McConkey being the only receiver that was competent to make plays in the receiver room. Now, they've only gotten better. They said, you know what? We're going to go get an offensive lineman from the Philadelphia Eagles. We're going to get Najee Harris. We'll draft a Marion Hampton. So that's why I'm rocking with the AFC West, baby.
Okay. Well, we will soon find out as the NFL season is rapidly approaching. But first, we got a team.
What is up, Vikings Nation? It's your guy Victor here with another bombshell update from Report Vikings. And trust me, this one's got my purple blood boiling with excitement. Yup. You read that right. Micah freaking Parsons to the Minnesota Vikings. Now look, Nothing is official yet, but with the way things are crumbling between Parsons and the Cowboys, and the way Kwesi and our front office are keeping an eye on elite pass rushers, this isn't just some wild rumor anymore. This is something very, very real. Let's break this down. Parsons is in the final year of his rookie contract, and Dallas still hasn't gotten an extension done. Can you believe that? Jerry Jones has been dragging this out for months, and every time he opens his mouth, he makes the situation worse. First, he disrespects Parsons' agent, David Mulugeta, saying he doesn't even know his name. Then, just this week, he says, just because we sign him doesn't mean we're gonna have him. He was hurt 6 games last year. Bruh, that's not even true. Micah only missed 4 games last season and still finished with 13.5 sacks. And guess what? Parsons isn't staying silent anymore. He liked and retweeted a post by JJ Watt throwing shade on the whole situation. The dude's clearly fed up. In his own words, and I quote, "If this is the end, then let it be the end." That does not sound like a man who's excited to stay in Dallas. He also mentioned that his agent has been trying to talk to the Cowboys, but they're not responding. Parsons said it flat out. If they don't want me here, I'll take care of my family and move on. Now let's talk about why the Vikings make so much sense here. We've got cap flexibility coming up. We've got a young, aggressive defense that's being built the right way under Brian Flores. And above all, we've got a massive need for a game-wrecking edge rusher. Look, I love what we've got with guys like Dallas Turner and Jonathan Greenard. But let's be honest, adding Micah Parsons, a guy who already has 4 straight seasons with 10-plus sacks, 52.5 total sacks, 3x All-Pro, 4x Pro Bowler, that changes everything. He's only 26 years old, and pairing him with our core would immediately give us one of the nastiest front sevens in the league. And listen, sources close to the situation are saying Micah could be interested in joining the Vikings. Why? Because we're showing him respect, because we're willing to talk extension, because we actually care about building a defense around our stars, not insulting them in press conferences. So what would it take? Well, it won't be cheap. We're probably talking a first-round pick, maybe a second or a young player too. But honestly, it's worth every penny. How often do you get a shot at a guy this young, this talented, and this motivated to prove his worth? Especially after watching players like TJ Watt, Max Crosby, and Myles Garrett all get paid, and Micah sitting there saying, "Where's mine?" I'll say it right now. If there's even a 10% chance we can land Micah Parsons, Kwesi better be making that call right now. This is the kind of move that makes you legit Super Bowl contenders, not just playoff hopefuls. And let's be honest, you don't pass that up. So now I want to hear from you, Vikings Nation. Would you trade a first and a second for Micah Parsons? Do you think he fits our defensive scheme with Flores? And how would it feel to see the 111 in that beautiful purple and gold? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and as always, if you're fired up about the direction of this team, smash that like button, subscribe to Report Vikings, and hit that bell so you don't miss a second of this crazy offseason. I'm Victor, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Skol baby, let's go.